So that we wrapped our kick drum, it's time to focus on the samples. What do we do with layering percussion? What do we do maybe with layering hi-hats or some effects? I also wanted to talk about the attack on the particular samples. How are you going to make sure that you have that fat snare without it's clashing to another snare you're using? Sometimes you even use 3 different claps or snares together to make it sound fat. Now, how are you going to do that? I'm going to show you as we speak. Let's go. So, in the project, we'll have our nice kick drum, which we made in the previous chapter. We're going to move over to the drums. And in order to show you how important it is to have different layers, I'm going to show you here opening Splice. And we're going to look for some nice, let's say, claps. So I'm going to pick my own clap here and layer it with a clap of a friend of mine, which is Casmer. I'm just going to pick this one. I'm going to solo the samples and see how I can blend them together. I'm going to solo them so you're not going to hear the kick drum. This is without or solo, which is already fine. But if you want to build a stack of sounds, it's nice that you have samples that complement each other. And for this clap, it's quite nice. You get like an extra little dimension if you're going to layer 2 together. Let's get the kick drum going as well. I'm going to make this one a little shorter. Again, I'm using the fade out here at the region section, so we're not going to hear any pops and clicks. And maybe this one can be tuned whenever we have the rhythm ready. Looking at the kick drum, I know it's going to start here roughly, so I can just drag and drop. Holding down my Option key is going to help me to copy it. As you can see, if I don't hold it down, it's going to show move, and if I hold it down, it shows copy. Now that's a little fast, so I'm going to take away these. And I think it's nicer to just have this clap and using the reverb of it, which we can also manually add by just going to Ascend, which we showed earlier. You can also just go to, for example, let's say long or short, and add it to the mix. Now, for me, this now is a little bit too long, so I can change that in the plugin setting of Valhalla, which is put on the verb bus, but you can use any plugin. For example, I'm going to change this length here to something that I think is better. Maybe it's still too long, actually. I have to use a different setting. This will be enough. So the Ascend here really comes into place where you want to have the same reverb to both of these claps. So I'm just going to send the same clap from Casmer to the same bus, and it will sound roughly the same. Okay, now that we have these 2 claps under each other, how do we make sure that they're not interfering with each other? I'm going to switch on the metronome here at the right top of Logic. You'll see this little logo. It's like a triangle with some sort of a stick in it. And when you should click that, you'll have the metronome playing inside your project. In order to hear it, I'm going to click X, and the mixer opens. I'm going to lower the volume of both of these channels. So now you can hear how well it sits on the 1 of the transient. I'm going to extremely change and drastically change the volume of the second clap to see how it fills up. And as you can hear, it really brings a different feeling and a different flavor to the clap. If I would remove it, it's going to sound very empty suddenly. Obviously, it's too loud, but you'll hear it, you'll notice it, but you cannot really place exactly what is going on with the sounds. But yeah, it's like a nice way to fill up the frequency spectrum of your entire mix. layering, making sure they're not clashing with each other. It's like a puzzle you're constantly working on. You don't want to see the actual lines and the actual gaps between the pieces, and you want to glue them together as much as you can. So at some point, you'll find that some of these claps or percussion instruments could use a little bit of extra transient, or maybe they have too much of a transient. And the first thing that you can do was obviously going to the fade in and the fade out to make a quick change, but there are amazing plugins to do the same thing. If you're going for universal audio, you have the opportunity to use their plugins, and if you don't have it, don't worry. You can do it multiple ones, but if you have the opportunity to work with it, it's an amazing piece of software to get the best quality sounding plugins. And you can actually change the attack, the hold, the release, sensitivity, and the transient all within this plugin of UAD, which is called the Oxford Involution. I actually recently learned about this plugin by one of my colleagues here at the Instigate Studios, so shout out to Nils. And he might not be the best FIFA player, but he's really good at mixing songs. So he taught me to use this plugin and play around. And as you can hear, it really brings the element of the other clap, the attack element, alive. I'm going to solo it so you can hear it a little bit better. So you can just adjust it to your liking. Now, if you're thinking, oh, I really want to work with that plugin, but I don't have UAD, no worries. I'm going to replace this by one of Logic's own plugins, and you can find it in the Dynamics tab. Going to Enveloper is going to basically get you the same effect, maybe a different quality, but still this is perfectly fine to work with. So I'm going to change the gain, and it's really going to drastically lower the attack of this little sample. I can also do it the other way around, get it more attack, and it's going to be more aggressive. You can also change the end of the sample. And again, this is to your liking. Do not forget, when you change the actual envelope, to also adjust the volume again, because sometimes it's going to drastically increase the volume of your sample. So whenever you work with transients, always make sure you check your volumes right after you change the transient.